Hello, my name is Tori Phillips, and I'm a Black woman. I'm a daughter, a student, a friend, an American. I am all of those things and so much more. If you knowingly scroll past this post and consciously make the decision to not get educated after it, that's on you. I can't force you to watch it, but if you've ever met me, if you love me or anyone who is Black, if your favorite artist or actor, singer, influencer is Black, I urge you to watch this and listen to what I have to say. I'm not the spokesperson for the Black community, but the things that I have to say need to be said. I want to get one thing clear before I begin. It's not my job or any person of color's job to educate you. But with that being said, this is how I'm choosing to advocate for change in my community. For a long time now, I have tried to be palatable to a white audience because being around white people is all that I've ever known. It's how I've grown up. But this is far from the time to try to please everybody. I'm recording this and putting it on the internet because I don't want to look back at this and wish I had used my voice to speak out against racism and state-sanctioned violence. I'm making this because maybe you don't know that you're a part of the problem, but I don't want to sit back and not give you a chance to see why Black people and anyone who supports the Black Lives Matter movement is outraged right now. If you want to talk about anything I say in this video, after you see this, feel free to DM me, text me, call me. I will gladly have a conversation and without judgment because it's not my place to do that. And a conversation is needed in order for change to happen. It can be uncomfortable sometimes, but being uncomfortable is better than never understanding at all. So everything that's been happening for the past few years, well, for many years, is heartbreaking. I don't want anyone to think that George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery's death is the catalyst to why Black people are outraged right now. This has been happening for years, and it will continue to happen if we don't change what we're doing. It will continue to happen if we keep going in the same direction that we have been. The first point I want to make is this. If you get to choose whether or not you're educated on racism or state-sanctioned violence, you have privilege and you are privileged. I don't have the option to be misinformed or uneducated. I don't have the choice on whether or not racism affects me, but the situation that brought everything into perspective for me was the Trayvon Martin case. I was 11 years old when it became apparent to me that some white people see me or people who look like me as a threat. George Zimmerman's not guilty verdict proved to me at a young age what is still true now. If you're white, we aren't the same. Do you have any idea what it's like to be behind the wheel of a car and just the passing of a police car makes you anxious and freeze up? Do you have any idea what it's like to be watched and followed while you're in a store and questioning if you've done something wrong, knowing that you haven't because people are making assumptions about you? Do you have any idea what it's like to just be given nasty looks because of your skin color? If you don't see the problem with the questions that I just asked, it's because you're choosing not to see it. Growing up, I always associated racism with actions because it was what I was taught. History is whitewashed to the extent of having to take completely separate classes and being educated outside of school in order to be educated on the Black plight in America. I've learned more in 18 weeks about Black history in an African American studies class than I have in my entire life of public school. Therefore, if you want to be educated, you have to put in that work. Racism exists in so many forms, and like I said, I always associated it with actions, but it's more than that. Racism is compliance. Racism is ideological. In case you're not understanding what I'm saying, you don't have to spit on Black people to be racist. If you support or make excuses for anyone who spews racist rhetoric, including the president, you are a part of the problem. Just because you agree with someone's political views, but they are blatantly racist, you are in turn racist. I know it's hard to hear, but you are. If you don't speak up in a space where Black bodies don't exist and aren't taken seriously, you are complying with that rhetoric. So yes, being silent on an issue is compliance. If you have a choice to be silent or to speak, you have privilege. Another thing is using your platform. If you have any followers, you have a platform. You have the potential to make change. But don't repost the killings of Black people because it's not helping the situation. Reposting videos desensitizes us to that violence and is a reminder to us as Black people that we don't matter. Instead, go and get educated. There's no shame in it. I'm still learning new things every day, and you can never be too knowledgeable on these issues. I'm not saying everybody is obligated to post on social media, but not saying anything because you're afraid of what people will say or what they'll think or how they'll react to what you're saying goes back to the fact that it's not about you. Not saying anything is selfish and careless and reckless, and remaining neutral and silent is the equivalent of seeing an injustice done in front of you and saying, I'm okay with being a bystander. Just sharing one post can be eye-opening and it can start a much needed discussion. Again, it's not my job to educate the ignorant, but it is my job to speak out against ignorance because it breeds injustice, and being passive about ignorance is compliance. In regards to the All Lives Matters movement, all lives don't matter until Black lives matter. If you have a problem with that, I highly suggest taking a step back and asking yourself why you believe that all lives matter over Black lives. All Lives Matter is an attempt from white people to shift the attention away from Black people to themselves. And again, it's just not about you. Black Lives Matter is not insinuating that other races don't matter. In order to understand the Black Lives Matter movement, we need to discuss when they haven't mattered. Black lives didn't matter when Black people were being taken from Africa and to be enslaved. They didn't matter when Black people were being lynched by the KKK. Black lives didn't matter when they were being beaten and assaulted in the streets during the Civil Rights Movement. And Black lives still don't matter now that Black people are being murdered in the streets by police officers. This movement is about protecting Black bodies. All Lives Matter supporters are failing to see that America and its systems cater to the protection of white bodies. Yes, all lives matter. Nowhere in Black Lives Matter does anyone say that all people don't matter. But the fact that something needs to be created to take away from the issues proves why it is important we make it known that Black lives matter. This isn't just a Black issue. This is an everyone issue. And to anyone saying all cops aren't bad, neither are the Black people being killed in the streets. When the people in those uniforms stop being absolved from punishment in regards to the actions they take while wearing them, then we can talk about not all cops being bad cops. What you have to understand is that that's not what we're thinking about right now. There are people being murdered in the street, and it doesn't matter that all cops aren't bad cops. Right now, that's not the point. The whole system is and has always been against Black bodies. So if we want to see change, we have to completely restructure the system. So you need to get on board with the idea of change because it's not comfortable. Peace isn't comfortable. And until you attempt to understand what Black people are going through, and yes, I said attempt because you will never know what it's like to be Black, as I will never know what it's like to be white or any other race, we will remain in this same point in time, unmoved. In regards to the protesting, looting, and riots, peaceful protest is the goal. However, when you are met with rubber bullets, tear gas, and assault, how do you respond to that? A decent amount of protests have started peacefully, but have been met with violence. And if you have a problem with rioting and looting, you are completely missing the point. Peaceful isn't working. Protesters are being met with violence. The things being stolen and the places being looted are materialistic. They can be replaced. Human beings cannot be. We are angry and we're grieving. And if you are choosing to speak on why looting is wrong or retweet about that rather than the main issue, then you are out of touch. I'm not saying looting is right, but you've got no business telling Black people how to react. We are tired of this. Don't tell people how to hurt. Show some compassion. And if you have a problem with how the protesting is going on, then you need to go out there and be a leader instead of sitting at home passing judgment. You don't get it because you aren't us. So many white people want our music and our culture and our stories, but they don't want us. But they go hand in hand. We are tired of hoping for justice when justice should just be. It's time for white people to be honest with themselves. We learned violence from you. We didn't ask to be brought here, but now that we are, why is there a problem with us wanting to be seen and taken seriously? Some people love supporting Make America Great Again, but have you ever stopped to ask yourself who you're making it great for? Because it's not Black people. If you support MAGA, you aren't making this country great for anyone who's not white. America is supposed to be free. At least that's what it says in the history books. But it has never been that for anybody who's not white. And some people will deny racism, but if it's not alive, then why are Black men, women, and children being killed in the streets? Why are we being treated like animals? If it's not because of our skin color, please tell me because I would like to know. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and it's clearer now more than ever that racism does not rest. I don't know about you, but I don't want my children or their children to grow up in a world like this. I more than likely won't be alive by the time real change is made, but I'm not going to sit here in silence and not stand with my people. Black lives matter. They have always mattered. And they will continue to matter. But it starts here. It starts with you. It starts with me. It starts in our communities. It starts with sharing the message. It starts by voting locally. It starts by voting, period. Even if you don't think your vote matters, I promise it does. It's better to go out there and try and not succeed than to not try at all. I personally am just asking you to try and understand. We aren't going to change anything if we don't work together. And the first step is learning about the problems, having a conversation, and acknowledging privilege. we need to do something, because whatever this is, it's not working.